Hello and welcome to the Alpha Software Demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software. Today we have a rather short presentation and it came from a user question, and it has to do with working with images in a list control. But before we go any further, just two things. First of all, if you could let me know whether or not you could see my screen and hear me, fantastic. Thank you so much for letting me know. And the second thing is that you can ask questions. You can type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel, but you can always send questions to guides, Guides, at alphasoftware.com. So let us begin. We're just going to do this today as a live demo. And I've just created a really simple UX component, which I'm going to open up here. Oops, no, my debugger window's doing there. And we're actually going to recreate this. This is just a really simple example. We're going to go into live preview. This is a UX component, which has got a list control and a detail view. And there are only three fields in it. One is the key field, the ID field. The other is a field called name, and one is a field called photo. So if I go in and I create a new record, and I say this is the property at 14 Windman Street or something like that, and I choose a picture, I'm going to choose this one here, and I go ahead and save that. You'll see that it has been now saved up into my list, and it's here, and I can synchronize this and push it up to the database. So we're going to be taking a look here today at how we put this together and how we make it work. But before I go any further, if you're using today's build, we're probably going to edit this out of the video. There is a bug, actually, I think even with the latest release build, where you click synchronize, and you'll see it'll end up breaking the image here. That's an error that we just discovered recently, and we are fixing it right now at this very moment. But if you go back into live preview, the error does go away. So it's not, you can still work around it at the moment. Just want to let you know about that. Okay, so let's go see how this was put together. First of all, because there are a couple things that are tricky if you haven't done it in a while. One is the transformation template, and one is the image capture and storage properties. So we're going to go over those, but let's begin here with the database. So I just created a very simple database in SQLite Studio, and it is called properties because this was going to be real estate properties. It's got an ID field, which is an integer, which I've set as a primary key, and I've configured it as auto increment. Keep in mind, I'm using SQLite Studio, which is a great free product for you to use, really good for doing test databases. The other two fields are name and photo. Photo, you'll notice, is not a blob field or large field. It's just a text field. And that's because we're going to save our images to a file system rather than save them into the database. So we're going to actually just save a pointer. In other words, what the file name is going to go here into this photo field. I may already have some data here that I can take a look at. Let's just refresh. And there are my two photos. Well, they're the same ones, but because I only had one, but there they are. So let's pop back here into Alpha Anywhere, and let's just go ahead and start this project again from scratch. So we're going to create a new component. Actually, before that, what we would have done is we would have set up a connection string to our database, and we would do that up here in Tools, Alpha DAO connection strings. I already have mine set up, but I could have always created a new one. Called it, for example, connection string 3. And then I have access to all these different backend databases that we have built-in connectors for, one of which is SQLite, which is what I chose before. And then with SQLite, all you do is you specify a file name where you want it to be. One little gotcha here is, for some reason, the SQLite Studio doesn't create files that end in .db. They just doesn't have an extension at all. So if you just go star.star, you'll see your files. So we'll scroll down here, and there's my test.db. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out, but that's all you have to do to make the connection string for today's project. So now we're going to go new, and we're going to choose a new UX component. And we'll do a blank one. And the first thing control we're going to add is a list control. If list isn't here under your favorites, you can always add it by clicking the add control button. I'm going to choose a list. I'm just going to click OK to that. All right. So the list genie, when you set it up, is actually a really terrific thing to use. I'm just not using it today because we don't need it for our example, but that is a very good starting point when you put in a list. So here we are in the list. I'm going to double click on the properties. And the first thing we'll do is specify the data source. So the data source is going to be SQL. The connection string is one I've already created before called test connection, which points to our SQLite database. The table, well, there's just one, so we'll select it. It's called properties. And the field list. We'll go ahead and choose all of those fields. And there they go. Now, if I go into list properties, I'm going to want to have a detail view in this case. So I'm going to say detail view. And now I'm going to go back into fields. And we're going to say that this photo field is actually not a character field, but a photo type of field. So control type, it says label. We're going to change that to photo or image, I should say. Okay, so there's the image control. And now let's take a look at list properties. I'm sorry, let's go to list properties. We've got detail view set up. So let's actually set up our detail view. So our detail view is going to need to have fields that we can enter in our information. So detail view map, we're going to go ahead and click on that. And we don't need to set up the ID. That's done for us. But this one, I would like to, actually we'll say, in fact, we'll say what we're going to do is create a new UX control for all unmapped fields. I think I showed that to you last week. It's actually kind of a cool feature. And then it's going to ask where I'd like to put it. I'm going to say I'd like it afterwards. So it'll go ahead and do that. Does it want to be in a container? Sure, we'll put it in a container. All right, so at this point, we should have a very boring list. But what I'm going to do, oops, I'm not going to have a list at all unless I put some fields in it. So this is the part that's going to show up in the list portion, not the detail portion. So it's going to have the ID, the name, and the photo. And it did know that this is the correct type for a photo because we updated that. I'm going to save that as photos 2. And then we're going to make this not 100%. We're going to make this 50%. I'm just going to do a quick layout here just so it looks a little nicer on the screen. And we're going to set the container where the detail view lives at 50% as well. So let's go ahead and hit save. And we'll go into working preview. And now, actually, I'd like to have these side by side, but we're getting there. Here's my stuff here. And let's go ahead and just turn off that break after the list. And we're going to actually go into live preview for this because we're going to be working in live preview mostly today so we can use the file upload feature. So there we go. There are broken names, house 1, house 2. That's fine. We just set this up. That's not a problem. So we're going to go here and we are going to set up our list. And there are two things in particular that we're going to want to set up. Under fields, we're going to want to go down to that photo field. And we're going to tell it a couple things. One thing we're going to tell it is the image file transformation template. And the other one is the image capture storage and properties here. We're going to start with this one, storage and properties. And now it's going to say, where would you like this image to be captured? In the example that a customer had written in for before, they were storing it on the server, but you have some other types of things. You could do it as a storage connection string and use Amazon S3. That's a very popular way of storing images. So S3 is one we recommend. Server is one we recommend. It's okay to store it in the database itself, but but they can grow quite large, so it's not best practice. All right, the next thing we're going to ask is where do we want to put this folder? So I'm going to click here and say, what's the upload folder? And so I might do something like images, products, or something like that, or my images, or something like that. I think I did my images before, so let's do it again. That's going to be the name of the folder. And if there is another one, just overwrite what's there. Okay. Stored file name transformation expression. This is going to be the short file name, which does include the extension at the end of it. So what does all this mean? Well, I'll show you, because what we're going to do is we are going to add a new photo, and we're going to take a look in the database and see how it works. All right, but in order to add a new photo, we need to add some buttons here so that we can add data to our list. So I'm going to go over here into my container, actually to my photo field, and I'm going to scroll down to defined controls. And then down here, you're going to find my list detail view buttons. So I'm going to grab that. And the buttons we want are save record, new record, delete record, and synchronize record. There's some other ones as well. Use refresh. You can show the data in the list for debugging, which is something we did earlier today. But these are typically the 4 that you'll choose. So I'll click OK on that. You have not selected the list. Oops, well, I just had the one list. So let me just go ahead and select list 1. We'll click OK. And now I've got buttons. So I'm able to now enter in new data, but the one thing I can't enter in yet is a picture, because we're going to want to do an upload to add in our picture. So to do that, we're just going to add a regular, plain old everyday button. Find that under other controls. And we'll go into button, and I'm going to say upload image. All right. So now we have that image upload button there. We'll make it the first one. And let's double click on it and define what that button does. So we're going to say add a new action, and we're going to use action JavaScript so we don't have to code ourselves. So we're going to just choose image upload capture for list detail view. It's right there. We'll go ahead and click OK. Your list detail view does not have any image controls. Oh, that's my bad. Let's go back here to my photo field. Oops, it's right. I have that set as a text box. Let's set that as an image. All right, let's go ahead and click save. Nice. All right, so I'm going to go back into that button, add an action to an image. And the image control is going to be the photo field. And that's pretty much everything I need to do. Image capture HTML5. Yep, everything should be good there. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click save. And now, save. We're going to go ahead and put in a new record. So let's go down here, say new record. Name will be 24 Main Street. It's just down the street. The photo, I'm going to click upload image, and I'm going to choose a photo here. And I'm going to save that. And you'll see it's now appeared here in the list, and it's now appeared here in the photos. This is in working preview, by the way. I should have actually done that in live preview. Let's go over to live preview. I didn't know that it worked in working preview, to be honest with you. So I've been usually using live preview for this. Okay, and sure enough, it is broken. But let's go take a look and see why it's broken. So we have these 2 records in the database. Let's go look in the database, and you'll see, oh, it's just labeled, oh, I'll hit refresh. House 1, house 2. Okay. So it has the short name stored in here, but it doesn't know the path where the image is located. So we're going to need to tell it that. And we're going to do that right here in the list. I'm going to scroll down in, so we're going to go to list fields. And we had set up before the image capture and storage properties, I believe, for photo. There they are. But what we want to do now is put in a file transformation template. What this will do is it will take the value that's in the database, which is just the file name, and it will make it a complete URL so that it can be loaded into the browser. So here's the example they have here, my images, which is in fact the same name we gave it, and then we're going to insert the value. Oops, that's not the order in which I wanted that to happen. There we go, like that. Now in their example, you'll notice they have a .jpeg. You don't need to do that because if you looked in the database, it already has the file extension listed for you, so there's no need to insert that. So I'm going to click OK on that. I'm going to click OK again. Let's save it. And now let's go into live preview. And if I've done everything right, but this is a live demo, so who knows? We should be able to see that our images are going to be displayed. And there they are, just not very nicely, but they're both here. So just a quick review of the key points here. When you're setting up a list control that uses images, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to that list. You're going to want to go to the fields in that list and choose the name of the field that's going to store your photo. And then there are a couple things you're going to need to do to that. One is you're going to need to indicate how it's going to be stored. And you'll do that here under image capture and storage properties. If you recall, that's where we said we're going to use it to the server. And we're just going to put in a short file name. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to use the image file transformation template so that our URL for the image resolves to the right place. So those are the key things to do here. The other thing that you need to do when you're setting up your button is you do need to make sure that this has been set as a photo field in your detail view. So you just click on it and choose the image type. All right, I think that is everything. Let's pop over to working preview. I'm curious as to whether or not this works in working preview or not, and why I would have thought that it wouldn't have. Looks like it does. All right, well, maybe it's the upload that doesn't work. Let's try a new record. All right, one last test here, folks. Test 1, 2, 3. Upload image, choose the house, click OK. Looks fine. Save it, synchronize, design, back into working preview. And if it's broken here, then we know that live preview is the way to go. 1, 2. Nope, it looks like it's fine. Well, I take that back. You can do it in working preview too. All right, well, that is what I wanted to show you guys today, but let's see if there are any questions here. We'll take a look here in the questions box. He said, will this be working the same way for view boxes? Probably not, but we'll see. I'd have to look into that. Okay, here's another question we've got. I've got a list based on a table that has over 40,000 rows of data. It took forever for the list to open. Is there a way to speed up the time it takes to open the list? Well, you can tell the list that you don't not to display any data when it first loads and only display data when you start searching for records. Let's see what else we've got here. And can you show how to resize the photo in the list so that it is inline instead of full size? Oh, how do you make this smaller? Yeah, let's take a look at that. I'm going to go here into photo. That is a good question. So we don't want that giant thing. We want it to be much smaller. So let's go into fields. And there's the photo field. And client-side class, that might be a way to do that. You might be able to say that this has got a, let's say, a width of, actually, let's go with a height, 100 pixels, width, 100 pixels. So 100 is big, but it's, yeah, let's do 75. And okay. And let's do a working preview and see what that looks like. No, that doesn't look right. That's much. Oh, actually, no, that's not right. The height is much too high. All right, let's take a look again. Add that list control. List properties, sorry, fields, photo. All right, that's not right. Embed images into HTML. Oh, I suspect it's one of these. No, not necessarily. I'm sorry, I'll have to look that one up. I don't know offhand, but I know that this is where you look. So we'll, but I can get you the real answer. Again, just as a reminder, go ahead and you can send your questions into guides, guides@alphasoftware.com. So can you add a thumbnail for the photo as well? That's a good one. We should take a look at those. I haven't done that. And can you resize the picture on the way to the storage folder? There is a way to do that. These are all good questions. Let's take a look. Let's take a look in particular at that action JavaScript that uploaded the image. And we'll see what we can do. Aha. Well, first of all, yes, I can resize it on the way in. And I said max image height is 512. So we can make that smaller to save it that way. So that answers that question. The other one is, can you create image thumbnails? You can. I'm going to create an image thumbnail. Thumbnail definition. Add a new thumbnail. Oh, interesting. So it's going to put it into a new field. So if I had a thumbnail field in my database, I could do that. And then I could say what ratio I wanted it to be in. Half. It looks like it's always as a percentage. Not, oh, no, you can do absolute size as well, including in pixels. So hopefully that answers that question. Is there anything else here for today? It doesn't look like it. Again, if I missed something though, just send it into guides, GUIDES, @alphasoftware.com. Thank you everyone for showing up today and participating. Love having you guys here. And I look forward to seeing you at our next Alpha Software demo and Q&A webcast. Until then, take care and stay well. Thanks. Bye-bye.